Good afternoon. Welcome to the really second to last Lunch and Learn of this school year, the last presentation. So we're excited to be here. My name is Wyndham Kemsley. I'm the Communications Director for Rancho Public Schools, and I'm once again joined by Erica Lozano, who is the Secondary Instruction and Curriculum Coordinator for the district. I would like to go over some brief housekeeping items before we get going here. So once again, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We have a chat feature available to us in the YouTube live stream. So if you have any questions, we encourage you to utilize that chat feature. We will be monitoring the chat box and addressing any questions that come up. We do ask that you keep the questions relevant to the content at hand. If you have any other questions that are aside from what we're talking about today, we encourage you to use the email that is in the description of the live stream. And please keep it to questions. We are trying to keep things organized. So if you have any comments or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to us via that email. I guess I'll just pass the time over to Erica now. Again, if you have the opportunity to watch this live, we're welcoming you here live. But if you don't, please share this with folks who might not be able to see this after the fact on our YouTube channel. Everything that we do here, all the videos that we do live streamed, will be posted immediately after the presentation closes on our YouTube page. And if you are joining us after the fact, feel free to use that email for questions related to this content or any comments that you have. So Erica, if you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
I am ready. Thank you so much, Wyndham, and good afternoon, everyone. If it's the first time that I am seeing you, then welcome. If you are joining us again, then I welcome you back. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing. And Wyndham, let me know if there's anything wrong on your end. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and get started.
Looks good. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So as Wyndham said, this is our second to last session, but this is really our last formal session where I'll be exploring new information with you. Our final session of the year, and I'll go over dates at the end of this, at the end of today's session, is really all about Q&A. So it's an open hour for you to ask any and all questions related to our new instructional materials, our new standards, and our process for exploring social studies with students in the coming school year and beyond. And so I welcome you to invite others to spread the word. We'd really love to be able to answer any questions that you have, especially in more of a back and forth format as opposed to emails. Emails are great, but I love to be able to have that dialogue too. So today's session really is about exploring the recommended resources for students beginning in the 23-24 school year. If you've been here before, I'm going to say it again, but I like to always start with this slide with the puzzle piece because, as I've said many times before, or if you're here for the first time, we want you to know that our community really plays a huge piece of a much larger puzzle that comes together to support our students. And so we value that piece that you play, that huge role that you play, and we're so glad that you're here today to continue learning alongside us. So the puzzle pieces, I thought they were cute, but really more than that, they just have a lot of meaning to me when I think about working with our Rio Rancho Public Schools community. If this is your first time here, again, my name is Erica Lozano, and I am the Secondary Coordinator for Social Studies and English Language Arts. So if you have questions about either one, I'm your gal. I am the parent of a Rio Rancho Public Schools student. I have a student in elementary school and one who will be in kindergarten in 2 years. And so a lot of the decisions that we make, I know will impact my students one day too. So as we go through this session today and as we've gone through this process this year, I always try to think about things through both lenses and wearing both hats. The educator hat that I wear during the day and then the mom hat that I wear all the time. And then I always like to share just a little something about me. I told my mom, the first time I told my mom what I wanted to do when I grew up was when I was 8, and I told her that I was going to study American history. And I know a lot of kids change their mind about what they want to do over the years, but that's exactly what I did. My bachelor's degree is in 20th century American history, and I love it even still today. I always like to look back at what we did at our last session just to help tie things together. But when we met back in March, we really took time to look at what's coming for the new school year. So not specifically at the instructional resources that we'll be recommending for adoption, which is what we're going to look at today, but we looked at like what are changes in instruction and student learning going to look like based on our new standards and with the implementation of new resources. We have a lot of exciting changes to come, and we had an opportunity to dive into those a little bit when we met back in March. Our purpose today is to preview the online component of the resources that students will use starting in August of 2023, pending the Board of Education approval. And I really want to highlight that point today. I'm going to go over the details of the upcoming board meeting with you during this presentation so that you have an opportunity to engage and to view the board meeting. But everything that I show you today is simply a recommendation at this point. It has not been approved by the board just yet. So our agenda for today, we're going to first look at what those recommended resources are that we will be presenting to the board. We're going to dive in and do an online preview. I want you to know that there's far more that I could show you, but we could take an 8-hour day to explore online resources and probably more. So I'm just going to give you a quick preview of what they look like and what your students will see online. Just so that you have an idea of what their experience will be like next year if you haven't had a chance to do so already. And then finally, we'll take questions and talk about next steps. Of course, along the way, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat, and then I will be able to stop or pause and respond to those. So as I mentioned, we're going to first look at our recommendations to the Board of Education for instructional resources for grades 6 through 12, all under the umbrella of social studies. These recommendations will be going to our Board of Education on Monday, April 24th. The start time of that board meeting is 5:30 p.m. And that doesn't necessarily mean, though, that we'll be on at 5:30. So if you do plan to attend and you log on at 5:30 and you're like, why haven't they started talking about social studies yet? The board agenda is published ahead of time. So if you want to take a look at that and kind of see where we fall, you can kind of gauge how late in the evening we'll be presenting on these recommended resources, but we will be presenting on that evening. So here are the resources. I'm going to start with middle school. So you'll see in this top band the grade level and the discipline. And then underneath is just a little description of exactly what's studied within that discipline, especially for world and U.S. history. I think that's important to note because we have world and U.S. history in both middle school and high school, but they cover different years and different themes. So for 6th grade and 8th grade, we have adopted a resource from a publisher called Savas Learning Company. I'm going to talk a little bit more in a minute about what is included with that recommendation. But I've included the pictures here because I think it really helps to provide a visual. It'll also really help you when we dive online in just a minute because everything online is categorized by picture as well. And then our 7th grade New Mexico history text comes from a publisher called Gibbs Smith. And Gibbs Smith really specializes in writing curriculum for state history, which is something that a lot of the big national publishers like Pearson, Savas, McGraw-Hill, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, they don't offer those state histories. And so we've had to look outside of those major publishers to really look for a history that's tailored toward our state. So those are the middle school recommendations that we will be presenting to the board on April 24th. I'm going to go ahead and hide this. These are our high school resources. And again, I'm going to kind of walk you through where they're coming from so that you can kind of see some continuity across grade levels, but also that you're kind of painting a picture in your mind of what online site to jump onto as well. And I'll navigate you toward the right links here in just a minute. Both 9th grade geography and 12th grade economics both come from McGraw-Hill Education. One of the reasons why we went with McGraw-Hill for these particular texts is because they really aligned very, very well with our new standards. and they had components that we didn't see represented in other textbooks and other resources that were available. So we really felt that these went above and beyond and met the criteria of the new standards more than anything else. If you look at 10th grade world history, 11th grade United States history, and then 12th grade government, those are coming from Savas Learning Company, which we saw in 6th and 8th grade at the middle school level. So again, we have some continuity in platforms. It wasn't the guiding factor in why these resources were chosen. Again, these resources met the criteria of a very rigorous rubric above and beyond all other resources that we reviewed. 9th grade New Mexico history is unique. This is a digital only text out of CNM, and it is written by a gentleman named Dr. Brandon Morgan, and it really covers the history of New Mexico in depth from in a way that really aligns with our new standards for New Mexico history. So we're really excited about these new resources, and we really feel that they're going to meet the needs of students and staff. And again, we spent an entire semester going through the evaluation process, and so we're confident that these are the best resources for the students here in Rio Rancho Public Schools. If you are a high school parent or community member joining us and you have students either in advanced placement courses or who are interested in advanced placement courses in the realm of social studies, this is also part of our adoption. The process of evaluating looks different than it does for the core resources that we just looked at here. However, we did pull a team together, we evaluated the resources, and we made sure more than anything that these resources are in alignment with the course guide published by College Board. College Board is the company that oversees and facilitates the advanced placement process for all subjects. They also write the SAT. And so it's really important that whatever text we choose is not only approved by College Board as an aligned text, but that it is aligned with that course guide. So we have verified that all of these texts meet that criteria, and these are the advanced placement texts that we will be recommending to the Board of Education on April 24th. This is a big chart, so I'm not going to go over it in depth, but I do want you to know what this is and why it's important to note. This is also a chart that we will be sharing with the Board of Education. This tells you what is included in the purchase of these resources. So if they are approved by the board, we will begin the purchasing process so that we have them for the start of the new school year. But anywhere that you see a green check mark means that that is included with the materials that we are purchasing. You'll notice that all of them come with everything. So there's and I'm going to talk about 9th grade New Mexico history. That one's a little different, and I'm going to explain why, but with the exception of that resource, everything else that we are purchasing is very robust and is comprehensive. So teachers will get a teacher edition. We'll have one-to-one student editions pending budget. If not, we will make sure that we have class sets. So every student will have a book in their hands every single day. It's just a matter of whether or not they can take them home, with the exception of advanced placement courses. All students will have their own copy if they are an AP student. We'll have consumables for the next 6 years, and a consumable simply means like if you're familiar with a workbook. So that's something that students can actually write in, and then at the end of the year, they take it with them to use as a reference guide. But it is theirs to keep. They write in it, they use it, and then the students the next year get a brand new copy. And then finally, all students and teachers will have access to the digital resources online for the next 6 years. So when our budget is presented at the board meeting, everything that you see here is included in that budget. 9th grade New Mexico history is a little different because it is strictly a digital resource. Our 9th grade New Mexico curriculum team is coming together to curate resources that we're also going to include in the units that we plan. So I don't want you to think from this chart that the teachers of 9th grade New Mexico history aren't going to have what they need. We're working together right now to ensure that with this resource and the resources that teachers have curated over the years, that we have a full comprehensive resource or catalog of resources that teachers can use that are organized by unit of study. I want us to remember, though, more than anything else, that even though this is a very big decision that we're making, and even though it is a lengthy process that we go through in order to ensure that we've chosen the very best resources possible, the resource is not the only thing that guides our instruction. Our teachers guide our instruction, our standards guide our instruction. That is the most important component that is in a classroom. The high quality instructional resources that we select ensure that we have the tools that we need to meet those standards, and that our teachers have the tools that they need to engage students in teaching. So if a book is missing a perspective, or if we need to add in an additional resource so that students get a more robust understanding of an event or an era, we bring that in. We don't just teach what's on page 25 because that's what's on page 25. If we need more, we bring in more. And I think that's important to remember. So we don't teach to a textbook, we teach to standards, and we use the textbook to help us get there. So to wrap up this first segment of our session today, again, the board meeting is on Monday, April 24th, starting at 5:30. You can join us here online, or in person, I'm sorry, or you can join us online through our Rio Rancho Public Schools YouTube channel. You can live stream it, or you can view it after the fact. We do invite you and welcome you to engage in the board meeting by providing or submitting public comment. I'm not going to read this word for word. I did copy and paste this directly from our board's website, but if you want to reference this this slide presentation later on, these are the instructions for submitting written comments to the board, or for giving public comment at a live board meeting. So just make sure you pay careful attention to those guidelines in order to present your comments if you'd like to do so. The website to get to the school board's webpage is listed down here. You can also just easily Google search it. In fact, that's what I did just to get to it quickly. I typed in RRPS Board of Education. This is the first site that popped up on Google. All right, I'll pause for a moment to see if there are any questions regarding the recommended resources that we'll be presenting to the board later this month.
Doesn't look like any questions have come in so far, Erica, so I'd say you're good to proceed if you'd like.
Great, awesome, thank you, Wyndham. If you do have questions that pop into your mind as we continue, please put them in the chat, and then Wyndham will let me know, and I'll stop and answer those. All right, so now I'm going to kind of stop presenting my slideshow here, and I'm going to dive into, well, let me show you one more thing, and then we're going to dive into those online resources so that you can see what students will be interacting with while they're in the classroom. I'm going to jump into the two publishers that the majority of our resources come from, but I'm also going to show you where you can access links to get into the other platforms as well. So we'll be looking at Savvis, and then we'll also be looking at McGraw-Hill. And again, I've kind of noted there the subjects and the grade levels and the disciplines for which those companies have resources that we'll be using next year. Again, pending board approval. So to get there, I want to make sure that I remind everyone that we still have open our RRPS Content Connections webpage for social studies. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to this link. This is the same web page that we used for digital review and community feedback of instructional resources before the final decision was made. So if you've had a chance to look at this, or you gave input this way, or you came to our live open house that we had last month, this website has been public and open for that process. I've just converted it now so that it lists recommendations as opposed to choices, since the committee has voted and our recommendations have been finalized. So just to remind you of the navigation here, you'll see the grade level and the discipline. And then underneath, again, is that same picture of the text along with your login instructions. So you would click on the red hyperlink, and then use the username and password to log in. And I want to make sure you know what that process looks like so that if you'd like to do that after this session, you're more than welcome to continue exploring. So the same information is carried over for all of our different grade levels and disciplines. And then at the very bottom of this page are parent and community resources specifically related to Savvis, and Savvis Realize is the name of their platform, and then McGraw-Hill's connected platform. So you can click on these links to navigate to other helpful resources that kind of help to clarify what the student experience looks like, how parents can reach out for support for their child if it's needed, and other really useful information. So the first resource that we're going to jump into is a Savvis resource. So I'm going to choose 8th grade. I'm going to click here. And then on this page, I'm going to click on sign in. And then I would just carry over that username and password from right here, and I would copy and paste it directly into the login screen. Mine is already logged in, so it took me directly to the platform. But this is the first page that you're going to see when you log in, and it should say Student 1 up at the top. And then over here on the right, thank you. Over here on the right, I'm going to find the textbook that I'd like to look at. So again, if I am a parent of a 6th grader or a current 5th grader going into 6th grade, I'd click here because I can see that picture of the boat. I know the book for 8th grade has the Jefferson Memorial on the front. So I'm going to click on this. And then this is kind of the dashboard for a student. If I were logged in as a teacher, I'd see a whole lot more. And this may begin to look a little different for your students. Like, let's say you get online with them at home in October of next year. You're probably going to see a little more here because teachers will have started assigning things. Your student will also see some of their assignments in their Google Classroom because any of these digital platforms that we work with integrate directly with Google Classroom. So your student may show you like, hey, look at this assignment I'm doing, and it's in Google. Or they may open this platform and say, hey, look at this activity that my teacher assigned. Can you help me out a little bit? So I just want to give you a heads up that it may be in one place or another. So within this, I can click on a topic over here on the left. So let's say I want to look at the early republic. So now you're going to notice that, and I don't know why it just went black. Let's try one more time. I'm going to go to the early republic. Okay, here's why. I apologize. And now you're going to notice that over here on the left under topic 5, now I have my specific lessons related to the early republic. So if I want to click on lesson 2, a two-party system develops, now I'm going to start to see any of the content that my teacher wants me to engage with. So again, this is where it might look different if you log in October because a teacher may have added, maybe there's a warm-up activity here or a brainstorming worksheet where a student jots down everything they know about this two-party system so a teacher can kind of gauge, hey, what do my kids already know about this before they dive in and they actually start teaching about it. So students can click on the resource itself. Everything is hyperlinked wherever you go. So I really recommend kind of exploring and clicking around. In here, you're going to notice that this is a very student-friendly format, and it's going to mirror what the book looks like. So in here, students have the text. They have an option to actually have the text read aloud to them for students who need it. There's a video that's embedded where they can learn about this in a more visual way. And then over here on the right, they have a place where they can link to their graphic organizer to take notes, as well as an opportunity to practice vocabulary so that they understand those key terms to help them engage with the content throughout that lesson. The downloadable feature, they may not use that as often. Teachers are more likely to use that if they needed to print it for students, but everything is interactive. So if a student were to expand this, I'm not going to be able to do it right here because I'm not completely linked right now, but they'd be able to type directly into this, and they can even submit it to their teacher directly through Google Classroom. So everything is integrated. Everything is a very fluid back and forth process. And teachers are able to see, no matter where students have it, teachers are able to keep up with and see the work that students are doing within this platform or through Google Classroom itself. So let me exit here. Students will also see where there are standards. I will tell you that with any of the Savvis products, eventually these standards will switch over to, or they may be already, I have to check the codes, but our New Mexico standards are integrated, which is very unique to Savvis. And we're really excited about that, that our teachers will be able to sort by and assign assignments based on a particular standard, which is huge when our standards are brand new. So again, that's a quick overview. Students also have these other tabs where they'll be able to look at their grades. They may look more often in Google Classroom for their grades, but grades will populate here once a student starts submitting work and the teacher has provided that feedback. So there is a whole lot more to explore. I just wanted to give you a quick introduction of what that looks like through Savvis. Are there any questions about the Savvis Realize platform? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump into our second resource, which is McGraw-Hill. So again, I'm going to find those resources. I'd click on the red link, and then it's going to provide me a login page. So again, and it's logging me in. So again, I just copy and paste. I will tell you, for some reason on McGraw-Hill's platform, copying and pasting the password does not always work. So if it doesn't work, please know this is not wrong. Just hand key it in, and then you should be able to get in just fine. So again, you're going to be taken to a landing page where you're going to see several different resources that are listed. I'm going to click on economics, which is one of our recommended resources. And you're going to notice that this looks very different. So again, we selected resources based on a rigorous rubric. This resource by far scored the highest on our rubric, as it meets the needs of the standards and of our district. But our students are very flexible, very fluid. They understand how to use technology better than we do oftentimes. And so navigating two platforms, so like a 12th grader will be navigating this platform for a semester, and then they'll be navigating the Savvis platform with government for a semester. But we're very confident that they're going to be able to do that fluidly. This one is a little bit different. I'm going to click here on Browse Your Course, and this is where I can find the different chapters or themes that students will be studying. So let's say that under Unit 1, Thinking Like an Economist, I want to know what economics is. So when you're in here, this is where you're going to see, this login site is kind of fun because you get to see the teacher side and the student side. So over here on the left, you'll be able to see the resources that teachers have for planning, the other chapter resources that are available. But then if I want to see what it looks like, I can click on the student preview, and it's going to show me what resources are here now. So right now I have access to the interactive student ebook, which is going to be a lot like what we saw with Savvis, where students can click on a page and they can type directly into it. There will very likely be more here when a teacher is actually engaging with this resource and assigning things to students. So this would be the reading for that chapter, but then a teacher will add in, now here's the activity that I want you to do. Here's the primary source that I want you to read. Here's the current event about a bank just closing somewhere in California, and why that's important to what we're learning today. So you'll see more here if you were to log in with your student once the school year has started. All of our adopted resources have some resources in different languages. That does help to support our multilingual learners. It's not a full translation of all content. However, sometimes the summary in your home language helps helps to get an idea, or helps the student to get an idea of what they're about to learn, so that they can then break down the content in English with the support of their teacher and other resources that are being used. I will show you what that ebook looks like. And it's taking just a second to load. There's a lot of content here. So when I open the book, you'll notice that it's going to look very close to what students see in print. Students do have the option to, they can change their Lexile level. So if students need it to be pared down just a little bit, they can do that, and the text will update to reflect that. They can see teacher notes, or I'm sorry, the students cannot see the teacher notes. The teacher can leave notes like, hey, second period left off here. So these are some options for the teacher as they assign out to their students. Students will be able to take notes. They will be able to highlight the text, and then they will be able to put place markers. This is helpful because as they come back the next day, just like you would with sticky tabs and a highlighter in a textbook, they will be able to come back and reference those notes for future assignments where those notes are necessary to answer questions or complete tasks. So again, everything is very interactive. Everything syncs and links with Google Classroom so that teachers and students have that seamless experience from one platform to the next. And it was also really important for our committee to find resources that had similar looks and feels online as they did in print, so that when a student pulls up an ebook online, it looks just like what they might have sitting next to them. That really supports students who learn in different ways, or on a day when internet drops, because that happens to all of us at some point in time. Not that often, but it does happen. So that's a quick overview of what McGraw-Hill looks like. Are there any questions before we move on to the third portion of our session for today?
No questions, Erica.
Okay, thank you very much, Wyndham. So next steps. This slide, I think back to November, and this slide was full of upcoming sessions, and I can't believe that we're coming up to our last session in May. But again, our final session is our Q&A. I know that I'll work with Wyndham, and we'll put out a little more description about what that will look like and what the kind of the platform for how we navigate that Q&A will look like. And we will also have, I believe, Wyndham, we talked about having an option for questions to be submitted in advance if you can't make it, and I will answer those through the meeting, even if you're not present, because we really do want to know what your questions are and what you're thinking, so that we can provide those answers and get you that information before we head into the new school year. So we hope you can come. Again, that's just a reminder for that Board of Education meeting on Monday, April 24th at 5:30 p.m. Go to the Board of Education's website if you'd like to give public comment, or you'd like to submit those comments to be read by President Galbraith ahead of time. Our next session and our final session, that Q&A session, is scheduled for Wednesday, May 10th, same time, same place, from 12 to 1 p.m. I really do hope to see you there. Again, as Wyndham said at the beginning of today's session, these are different ways to continue to explore. You can submit feedback for today's session, where there's also a place to ask additional questions. You can explore the website that I shared with you today, or contact us directly at rrpscontent@rrps.net. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing this conversation, not only at our final session, but as we go into the new school year and we begin to implement and engage in really this new era of social studies with our students. Thank you, everyone.